Hi YouTube, my name is Yusuf and you are watching my news channel. Today is Monday, the 1st of the second month, and there isn't much going on in space. Solar wind is normal, density is low, speed is adequate, and the BZ is not tilted south. However, later this day or tomorrow, a CME impact will arrive. So, um, hi YouTube, this is Yusuf and you are watching my news channel. Today there isn't much going on in space on this Monday, the 1st of February. Solar wind is normal, relatively speaking, but later on there will be a CME and I will try to cover that when I come back from work. But let's look at the sun nevertheless. So before I go further, this is actually the solar wind that will arrive comes from this corona hole, and it will happen later this day. When we run the Enlil spiral, we can see that indeed the first or the second, here it is actually predicted for more like the 2nd of February, when we can clearly see a spike in density. However, I think the impact of this particular CME will be very low because, first of all, it's a glancing blow. We don't really get hit, we don't get a full impact, as you can see. It will only brush, go to the side of our planet, and most of all, the velocity is very low. As you can see, this blue represents almost the lowest speed, and when we look at the speed, we can see that it isn't predicted to go higher than 400 or maybe 500 kilometers a second. So this is the impact of this particular CME will be quite minimal. So let's move on to the next. Today I noticed again something very strange, and it's highly unusual, but because it's not an anomaly how I discussed in the previous videos. This is entirely something new, I think. Unfortunately, so this happened yesterday, the 31st of January. Happened on Sunday at, let's just say, 11:30. But the problem is, you see, something happened that covered almost completely the rear of the magnetosphere. But when we go back, there is like 3 hours of data missing. So I can't tell you exactly what happened. I can tell you that it happened when solar wind didn't change at all. So there was no space weather whatsoever. And this is basically at the end of whatever happened. And we can clearly see a big anomaly, energy poured in, so much that normally this is associated with active space weather. This is something you would normally see in a G1 or G2 storm, geomagnetic storm. Yet it happened for no reason. And the data missing is in all the metrics. Also, something noticeable, when we look here, we can see that the solar wind pressure at the time of the anomaly is almost completely gone. And it's really a shame that NASA put away the data, because I think something really interesting actually happened. I will show this by going a little bit backwards. You see, this is normal solar wind. Then we go to the anomaly. So it jumps from 7 to 11 in the timestamp, and this is because the data is missing. But we can clearly see when we jump to the anomaly, the solar wind almost completely disappears. Same here. When we go back, we see normal wind, solar wind velocity and density, but then we go to the anomaly and look at this. Something clearly happened that siphoned the solar wind for some strange reason. what I do notice is a lot of intermagnetic fields, interplanetary magnetic fields. The IMF is all over the place. So this is related to something in space, whether the sun, another planet, or whatever. This originates from somewhere in connection with our planet that did this. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you. I have basically no opinion because the data is clearly missing and can't see what exactly happened. What we see is the end result, or at least the part that they forget to delete or hide, at least. So there you have it, another anomaly on a normal space weather, in normal space weather conditions. Next, oh yes, there's a new moon, and I wanted to highlight this because I mentioned previously, so that there will be a special alignment, and I will go to the solar simulation. And as you can see, I chose the 11 because this is the date of the new moon, but the actual alignment, I think, is more like the 14th, when there is really a full alignment of those three planets, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, and then this alignment over here. So this is actually a combined alignment, and this is very dangerous. But what makes it even more dangerous is that the 11th, as you can see here, the new moon basically means the moon is at the same side of the sun when looked from the Earth. So at this moment, the moon sort of blocks the interplanetary magnetic field of the sun. It blocks the energy coming from the sun. And when the moon, I think it's 1 or 2 days later, that connection re-established. And then if there's, for example, a CME that happens, an impact of a CME just prior or after the new moon, this will create a shock to our planet. So it will strengthen whatever happens at that moment. This is why a new moon is always dangerous. It is associated with stronger earthquakes, possibility of volcano eruptions, and extreme weather. So this is a very dangerous date, something to look out for. And I will make a video completely dedicated to this particular phenomenon, the new moon and planetary alignments, just a few days before it happens. Then let's move forward. Let's hide this. Yes, let's watch the quakes. Today, if I look at the newest quakes, let's just slide this over to the largest magnitudes, and there isn't much going on. However, there is something that caught my attention, and it's not really visible in this particular map, but you can already see it if you zoom in. There are two clusters, two swarms happening in Puerto Rico, and the magnitudes are 3 on the Richter scale. It's not much, but when we look at it from a dimensional point of view, we can see these are, so first of all, this is the swarm in question. And I think we do need to watch that area. I don't know if there are volcanoes or anything in that region. I have to look it up, but already it caught my attention because there are basically two clusters and they are not far from each other, depth-wise spoken. So something might be going on in this particular region. Maybe foreshocks to a bigger quake. Who knows? We'll see how this develops further. And then this brings us to the end of the video. And like usual, I will cite a philosophical quote before I end this video. So today's philosophical quote is: vision without action is a daydream, and action without vision is a nightmare. This basically means if you have something, you have projects, you have dreams, something you want to do, but you don't do it, well, in the end, it will stay a dream. So if you have something, it's better to start at it, at least, and not just think about it. Action without vision is the opposite. That means you start to undertake something without really knowing what you're going to do, without knowing the outcome, and so on. So without having a plan in advance. And this will ultimately result in a nightmare. To put it into analogy, suppose you have a beautiful car and you look at it and then you start to imagine everything you can do with it, but at the end, you just stay home, you watch television or whatever, and everything that you planned, well, it just stays a dream. But on the other hand, if you just enter in your car and you start driving without really knowing where you're going, without knowing whether you'll be in traffic or if the weather is going to be okay, well, this can end in a lot of nasty situations. So always either plan something, when you plan something, either begin it if you have clearly something outlined, or before you start an action and you don't really know what you're going to do, first think it over. So there you have it. This is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button, and a sub would be absolutely divine. Thank you for watching this video, and I guess I'll see you another time. Take care.